Section 16 of the Endeavour Journal of Sir Joseph Banks. Journal from 25 August 1768 to 12 July 1771 by Joseph Banks. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Gail Timmerman Vaughan. Section 16. July 1769, Part 1. 1769, July 1. Proceed homewards, without meeting anything new. The country we passed by and over being the same as we had gone over on the 28th of last month. The day turned out rainy and bad, the only bad weather we have had since we left the ship, in which instance we are certainly fortunate that we had neither of us a change of clothes with us. So little did either of us expect to go round the island when we set out from Batavia. 1769, July 2. All our friends crowded this morn to see us, and tell us that they were rejoiced at our return. Nor were they empty-handed. Most of them brought something or other. The canoes were still in the river. Captain Cook, finding that there was no likelihood now of any of the stolen goods being restored, resolved to let them go as soon as he could. His friend, Po Tatau, solicited for one, which was immediately granted, as it was imagined the favour was asked for some of his friends. But no sooner did he begin to move the boat than the real owners and a number of Indians opposed him, telling him and his people very clamorously that it did not belong to them. He answered that he had bought it of the captain and given a pig for it. The people were by this declaration satisfied, and had we not luckily overheard it, he would have taken away this, and probably soon after have solicited for more. On being detected, he became so sulky and ashamed that for the rest of the day neither he nor his wife would open their mouths or look straight at any of us. 1769, July 3. This morn very early, Mr. Monkhouse and myself set out, resolving to follow the course of the valley down which our river comes, in order to see how far up it was inhabited, etc., etc. When we had got about 2 miles up it, we met several of our neighbours coming down, with loads of breadfruit upon their backs. We had often wondered from whence the small supplies of breadfruit we had came, as there was none to be seen upon the flats. But they soon explained the mystery, showing us breadfruit trees planted on the sides of the hills, and telling us at the same time that when the fruit in the flats failed, this became ready to use, which had been by them planted upon the hills to preserve the succession. The quantity was, they informed us, much less than was in the lowland, and not sufficient by any means to supply all the interval of scarcity. When this was exhausted, they must live upon ahi nuts, plantains, and vai, a wild plantain which grows very high up in the mountains. How the dolphins, who were here much about the same time, came to find so great plenty of breadfruit upon the trees is to me a mystery, unless perhaps the seasons of this fruit alter. As for their having met with a much larger supply of hogs, fowls, etc., than we have done, I can most readily account for that, as we have found by constant experience that these people may be frightened into anything. They have often described to us the terror which the dolphins' guns put into them, and when we asked how many people were killed, they numbered names upon their fingers, some 10, some 20, some 30, and they say waro, waro, the same word as is used for a flock of birds or a shoal of fish. The journals also serve to confirm this opinion. Quote, when, end quote, they say, quote, toward the latter end of our time provisions were scarce. A party of men were sent towards Epare to get hogs, etc., an office which they had not the smallest difficulty in performing, for the people as they went along the shore drove out their hogs to meet them, and would not allow them to pay for anything for them. End quote. We proceeded about 4 miles farther, and had houses pretty plentifully on each side of the river, the valley being all this way 300 or 400 yards across. We were now shown a house, which we were told would be the last we should see. The master offered us coconuts, and we refreshed ourselves. Beyond this we went maybe 6 miles. It is difficult to guess distances when roads are bad as this was, we being generally obliged to travel along the course of the river. We passed by several hollow places under stones, where they told us that people who were benighted slept. At length we arrived at a place where the river was banked on each side with steep rocks, and a cascade which fell from them made a pool so deep that the Indians said we could not go beyond it. They never did. Their business lay upon the rocks on each side of the plains, above which grew plenty of vai. The avenues to these were truly dreadful. The rocks were nearly perpendicular, one near 100 feet in height, the face of it constantly wet and slippery, with the water of numberless springs. Directly up the face even of this was a road, or rather a succession of long pieces of bark of Hibiscus tiliaceus, which served them as a rope to take hold of and scramble up from ledge to ledge, though upon those very ledges none but a goat or an Indian could have stood. One of these ropes was near 30 feet in length. Our guides offered to help us up this pass, but rather recommended one lowered down a few hundred yards, which was much less dangerous, though we did not choose to venture, as the sight which was to reward our hazard was nothing but a grove of vi trees, which we had often seen before. In the whole course of this walk the rocks were almost constantly bare to the view, so that I had a most excellent opportunity of searching for any appearance of minerals, but saw not the smallest. The stones everywhere showed manifest signs of having been at some time or other burned. Indeed, I have not seen a specimen of stone yet in the island that has not the visible marks of fire upon it. Small pieces, indeed, of the hatchet stone may be without them, but I have pieces of the same species burned almost to a pumice. The very clay upon the hills gives manifest signs of fire. Possibly the island owes its origin to a volcano, which now no longer burns, or, theoretically speaking, for the sake of those authors who balance this globe by a proper weight of continent placed near about these latitudes, that so necessary continent may have been sunk by dreadful earthquakes and volcanoes 200 or 300 fathoms under the sea, the tops of the highest mountains only still remaining above water in the shape of islands. An undoubted proof that such a thing now exists, to the great emolument of their theory, which, was it not for this proof, would have been already totally demolished by the course our ship made from Cape Horn to this island. 1769, June 4. Very little company today. I employed myself in planting a large quantity of the seeds of watermelons, oranges, lemons, limes, etc., which I had brought from Rio de Janeiro. They were planted on both sides of the fort, in as many varieties of soil as I could choose. I have very little doubt of the former especially coming to perfection, as I have given away large quantities among the natives, and planted also in the woods. They now continually ask me for seeds, and have already showed me melon plants of their raising, which look perfectly well. The seeds that Captain Cook sowed have proved so bad that no one has come up except mustard. Even the cucumbers and melons have failed, owing probably to the method of their being packed, which was in small bottles, sealed down with rosin. 1769, June 5. This morn I saw the operation of tattooing the buttocks performed upon a girl of about 12 years old. It proved, as I have always suspected, a most painful one. It was done with a large instrument, about 2 inches long, containing about 30 teeth. Every stroke of this, hundreds of which were made in a minute, drew blood. The patient bore this for about 1/4 of an hour, with most stoical resolution. By that time, however, the pain began to operate too strongly to be peacefully endured. She began to complain and soon burst out into loud lamentations, and would fain have persuaded the operator to cease. She was, however, held down by 2 women, who sometimes scolded, sometimes beat, and at others coaxed her. I was sitting in the adjacent house with Tomia for an hour, all which time it lasted, and was not finished when I went away, though very near. This was one side of her buttocks only, for the other had been done some time before. The arches upon the loins, upon which they value themselves, much were not yet done, the doing of which, they told, caused more pain than ever I had seen. About dinner time many of our friends came, Oamo, Othiothea, Tuarua, etc. 1769, June 6. We began now to prepare in earnest for our departure. The sails were today carried on board and bent. The guns were also taken on board. Our friends began now to believe that we are really preparing for our departure, a circumstance which they have of late much doubted. This evening we had a second visit from Tiarideri and Toimata, the people again paying them the same respect as on the 21st of June. Poor Toimata was again balked in her desire of seeing the fort, Oamo insisting that she should not come in. Soon after these had left us, some of our friends came to inform us that Monaamia, the man who had stole the quadrant, was landed, and meant this night to make an attempt upon us. All were ready to assist us, and several, Tuane Mate especially, very desirous of sleeping in the fort, which probably was the reason why this arch-thief did not this night exercise his abilities. 1769, July 7. The carpenters were this morn employed in taking down the gates and palisades of our little fortification to make us firewood for the ship, when one of the Indians without made shift to steal the staple and hook of the great gate. We were immediately apprised of the theft, to the great affright of our visitors, of whom the bell tent was full. Their fears were however presently quieted, and I, as usual, set out on my ordinary occupation of thief-catching. The Indians most readily joined me, and away we set full cry, much like a pack of foxhounds. We ran and walked, and ran, for I believe 6 miles, with as little delay as possible, when we learnt that we had very early in the chase passed our game, who was washing in a brook, saw us coming, and hid himself in the rushes. We returned to the place, and by some intelligence, which some of our people had got, found a scraper which had been stole from the ship, and was hid in those very rushes. With this we returned, and soon after our return to Borai brought the staple. 1769 June 8. Our friends with us as usual, the fort more and more dismantled. Our friends seemed resolved to stay till we go, though the greatest part of them are absolutely without victuals. We have been, for some days, obliged to spare them every little assistance that we can, and the best of them are most thankful for a single basket of apples. Notwithstanding this, we had 4 small pigs brought today from Oberea and Polothiara. 1769 June 9. Our friends with us early in the morning as usual. Some, I believe, really sorry at the approach of our departure, others desirous to make as much as they can of our stay. Several of the people were this evening out on liberty. 2 foreign seamen were together, and one had his knife stolen. He attempted to recover it, maybe roughly, for the Indians attacked him and wounded him grievously with a stone over his eye. The other was also slightly wounded in the head. The people who had done this immediately fled to the mountains. 2 of our marines left the fort sometime last night or this morn without leave. Their doing, though, at this time, when our departure is so near, makes us suspect them of an intention of staying among these people. Nothing, however, has been said about them today, in hopes of their returning, which they have not yet done. 1769 July 10. We are told by the Indians this morn that our people do not intend to return. They are, they say, gone up into the mountains, where our people cannot get at them, and one is already married and become an inhabitant of Tahiti. After some deliberation, however, Tuanimate and Patia undertook to carry our people to the place where they were. They were known to have no arms, so 2 were thought sufficient for the service, a midshipman and a marine, who set off without loss of time. We were now quite ready for the sea, so no time was to be lost in recovering the deserters. The Indians gave us but little hopes of our people bringing them back. One certain method remained, however, in our power, the seizing of some of their principal people, and detaining them, which was immediately resolved upon. Oberea, Potatau, Polothiara, Tubarai, Tamio, Tuorua, Othiothia, and Tetuahitia, and Nuna were in the fort, and were told that they would not be permitted to go from it till our people returned. At first they were not at all alarmed. They hardly believed us in earnest, till they saw the pinnace come ashore, and soon after go away to the westward. They immediately suspected what was the case, that she had gone to fetch Dutaha. They were now alarmed, but depending on our having used them well on all occasions, showed but little signs of either discontent or fear, but assured us that the people should be brought back as soon as possible. In the evening Dutaha was brought on board. Lieutenant Hicks, who had been sent on the service, found him at Titaha, and easily took him, or rather stole him, from the people. Night came on. It was thought unsafe to let the prisoners remain in the fort, which was totally dismantled. Oberea, Potatau, and Tubarai were ordered to the ship. In going into the boat they expressed much fear, and shed many tears. The captain stayed on board with them. I slept ashore, and the rest of the prisoners in my tent. About 8 our Indians came back with the 2 deserters, but brought the disagreeable news of one of the people who had been sent after them being seized by the Indians, who declared that they would not release them till Dutaha had his liberty. The news was sent abroad, and a boat came off immediately for Nuna and Tuanimate. They were sent to the ship. A boat armed went immediately in search of the people, and in her the latter, and Tupaya, who was our voluntary prisoner. 1769 July 11. The night was tolerably well spent. The women cried a little at first, but were soon quieted by assurances that at all events they should not be hurt. At daybreak a large number of people gathered about the fort, many of them with weapons. We were entirely without defences, so I made the best I could of it by going out among them. They were very civil, and showed much fear, as they have done of me upon all occasions, probably because I never showed the least of them, but have upon all our quarrels gone immediately into the thickest of them. They told me that our people would soon return. Accordingly, about 8, they did, safe and sound. We saw them through our glasses go up the side, and immediately discharged our prisoners, making each such a present as we thought would please them, with which some were well content. The prisoners from the ship were by this time coming ashore. They were received with much joy by the multitude. I met them from the boat, but no sign of forgiveness could I see in their faces. They looked sulky and affronted. I walked with Oberea along the beach. 4 hogs were soon offered me, 2 from her, and as many from Taha. I refused them, however, positively, unless they would sell them, which they refused to do. The rest of the morning was employed in getting the tents aboard, which was done by dinner time, and we dined on board. The smaller bower had been got up, and the stock found to be so much worm-eaten that we were obliged to make a new one, and as we have no hopes of the best bower being in better repair, it is probable that we shall not get to sea this day or 2. 1769, July 12. This morn Tupaya came on board. He had renewed his resolves of going with us to England, a circumstance which gives me much satisfaction. He is certainly a most proper man, well born, chief Tahoa or priest of this island, consequently skilled in the mysteries of their religion. But what makes him much more than anything else desirable is his experience in the navigation of these people, and knowledge of the islands and these seas. He has told us the names of above 70, the most of which he has himself been at. The captain refuses to take him on his own account, in my opinion, sensibly enough. The government will never, in all human probability, take any notice of him. I therefore have resolved to take him. Thank heaven I have a sufficiency, and I do not know why I may not keep him as a curiosity, as well as some of my neighbours do lions and tigers, at a larger expense than he will probably ever put me to. The amusement I shall have in his future conversation, and the benefit he will be of to this ship, as well as what he may be if another should be sent into these seas, will, I think, fully repay me. As soon as he had made his mind known, he said that he would go ashore and return in the evening, when he would make a signal for a boat to be sent off for him. He took with him a miniature picture of mine to show his friends, and several little things to give them as parting presents. After dinner we went ashore to the Marae no Lutaha, of which I was desirous to have a drawing made, and had not yet done it. We no sooner landed than several of our friends, those who were not totally affronted at the imprisonment of the day before yesterday, came to meet us. We proceeded with them to Taha's house, where we met Oberea, etc. They were glad to see us, and a perfect reconciliation ensued, in consequence of which they promised to visit us tomorrow morning, to take their leave of us, as we told them that we should sail before noon. With them was Tupaya, who most willingly returned in the boat with us aboard the ship, where he took up his lodgings for the first time. End of section 16, part 1 of July 1769.